In this video, I'm going to share you a short hack that literally takes like 5 minutes to implement, and it allowed me to get 3 A stars in my A-level exams and get accepted into the University of Hong Kong. And I did this while actually still enjoying my life, and it was because of this hack called dopamine loading. I've actually been using this hack for quite a long time without actually realizing it. So I'm going to share some actionable tips that you can literally implement starting today. If you watch until the end of this video, I guarantee you will get better grades in less time while still actually enjoying your student life. So let's get into it. So basically, this is dopamine loading. Wake up, sleep. This is your dopamine. This is basically the day. What most people's dopamine looks like throughout the day kind of looks like this graph. So they'll wake up and then, oh, boom, they'll start scrolling on their phone. And that's already a really big dopamine spike. Then, because they'll try to get that back down to work and studying again, so they'll now be at this really low dopamine state. And at this low dopamine state, it's very difficult to actually get work done. You'll start to feel bored, you'll start to feel extremely annoyed and just not being able to focus because your brain has already been exposed to this really high spike of dopamine. So now, what most students will do at this time, this was me when I was younger, basically, I would start to study for maybe 5 to 15 minutes. Then I would get extremely bored of studying. Then I would basically go on my phone, scroll on YouTube, scroll on Instagram. Then that's another dopamine spike. Then basically after that, I'll try to get back into work because I'll realize I'll be procrastinating again. Another low dopamine state. I'll get bored of it because I won't be able to work. Then what happens is, okay, now I'm gonna have a really big carby lunch. Basically like unhealthy food, unnecessary snacks, like basically high sugar meals. So I would eat like a lot of carbs for lunch, and basically it would create this really big dopamine spike. Not as bad as, waking up and actually checking my phone, but it's like not that good either. So basically what will happen is I'll be operating in these states throughout the day. I'll wake up, scroll on my phone, try to actually sit down and work, scroll my phone again, maybe watch Netflix or YouTube, maybe watch like One Piece or something. Then I would go back down to this low dopamine state. And my brain would just fluctuate between these high dopamine states and these low dopamine states. When that happens, my brain is literally not able to focus and lock in and work. Because in this low dopamine state, let me tell you, it becomes a hellish experience to try and sit down and work. You'll be thinking about the stuff that you did just before. To confess, for me, this dopamine spike, some days it was like I wake up and I would grab my phone and start watching porn on my phone. It was that bad. And with porn, the dopamine spike goes all the way up here. It's that bad. Because of that, when I try to actually start to work in this low dopamine state, you can be sure that it's not possible. It's just not possible. So that's what most people's dopamine looks like, and that's how my dopamine looked like before I started to implement this technique. So when did I start implementing this technique? Well, I started doing it when I was in year 12. So basically around year 12, end of exam season, I basically started using this dopamine loading method without actually realizing it. So here's what my dopamine kind of looks like during that time. So it would be 7 a.m. I would wake up, and I wouldn't eat breakfast. So the first thing I would do is I would go shower, and literally the only stimulating thing that would happen for me was that the water would be hitting my skin and I'll be brushing my teeth. That's it. Then I would go get some sunlight, which is like natural dopamine. Again, that's not bad. So I would get some sunlight and then, do my morning routine and stuff. Then I would go to school. So now 8:30 a.m. I would be at school and I would be basically studying for the entire day. So actually from this time to this time, I would not be playing video games or watching, scrolling on my phone or doing anything like that. Basically, I would just be studying, and maybe going to class as well. I would not be on my phone or anything. And here's the thing, from this time, I didn't actually eat anything until 12 p.m. So I would basically not eat anything until lunchtime. Then I would eat lunch and I would eat a low carbohydrate meal. I basically went into my cafeteria, I asked the cafeteria lady to not give me any rice or anything like that. And it allowed me to basically focus for the entire day until 3 p.m. when I finished school. So once I finished school and got back home, I've already done a lot of studying. I've already done a lot of hard work already. So maybe I would go back home to do gym in like my garage place, or I would go to like this apartment where I would have a really nice sauna. Then my dopamine would basically spike a little bit. Then around like, let's say it's like 5 p.m. Then I would actually go back home and I would be able to enjoy myself. I would have already spent my free periods. I spent the entire day studying. So from 5 p.m. onwards, I literally could do whatever the heck I want. So from this time was when I started to, watch Netflix. I started to watch, I remember binge watching Attack on Titan. Like not exactly binge watching, but watching a couple of episodes of Attack on Titan because it was releasing during that time. I also watched like Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War, also a super fire anime. So basically around 5 p.m. to like 9 p.m., that's when my dopamine is the highest. So basically, for the entire day, I don't do any high dopamine activity. Then at the end, boom, that's when I have that spike of dopamine. By the way, real quick, if you're interested in learning more of this kind of stuff and you want more personalized help from me, you can check out my community. It's called A-Star Students. Link below in the description. Anyways, back to the video. So around 5 to 9 p.m., that's when I have my high dopamine activities. This is when I eat a high carbohydrate meal for dinner. I don't eat like McDonald's and stuff because I don't think it's really that healthy. But I would eat a relatively more high carbohydrate meal around this time. Then so from 5 to 9 p.m., that's when I do all of my fun activities. So the key point here is to understand that our brains operate highly on contrast. When we have these really high peaks of dopamine and these really low troughs of dopamine, what ends up happening is that when we're in this low states of dopamine, we can't bring ourselves to do the hard work because we've already done the easy stuff, the really enjoyable stuff first. Then like the low dopamine work, like exercising, doing past papers, that just becomes not so fun anymore. So it becomes a lot easier to like zone off and like not do the hard work, By the way, not all dopamine is actually bad. The problem with these peaks of dopamine, and this one as well, is that all of these are artificial, labeled with an A. So this could be like watching porn. Watching porn spikes your dopamine up so high that it doesn't even fit on the scale. And you can expect that when you go all the way down and you try to start working again, you bet that you absolutely cannot do it. So the problem with these artificial dopamine releases, like, scrolling on TikTok, watching YouTube videos, like highly edited YouTube videos, like maybe watching Netflix, the problem with those activities is that it literally creates this unnatural contrast that your caveman brain literally cannot fathom. And so it becomes a lot harder to do difficult work. So this is kind of like what my exam schedule was like 2 weeks ago, literally 2 weeks ago. So I would wake up at around 7:30 a.m. and basically at this time from 7:30, so basically it was like I would go shower and do my morning routine, brush my teeth, stuff like that. Then from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m., this was work. This was when I would do basically the hardest task first thing in the morning. So for me, during exam season, it was doing one past paper. That was like the hardest thing that I could do and the most rewarding thing that I could do at the time. So I did a past paper from 8 to 11. So at 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I would go to the gym. I don't listen to any loud music while I'm in the gym. I don't put any headphones. I just go to the gym and I just lift the weight. That's pretty natural dopamine. It's not like artificial or anything like that. Okay, so now at 1 p.m. I would basically go and eat lunch. So lunch will take maybe like an hour because I eat in a cafeteria. And basically this is the time where I just kind of go and socialize with my friends and, have a little bit of fun because in exam season, everything is so stressful. So around this time, I would basically have lunch for 1 hour. Then after 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., that's when I do my final block of work. This is like a really, really big chunk of work. So I would maybe do another past paper or something like that. And so yeah, after 7 p.m., then this is the time where I actually start to dopamine load. So around this time, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., I would basically have my dinner. So my dinner, usually it's like rice, chicken, maybe it's like fish, whatever like the cafeteria serves. It rotates every week. So basically, around this time, I'm eating a more high carbohydrate meal. I'm loading myself up with carbs because around this time, I don't have to worry about not being able to do any work because this time is my free time. It's the time where I basically just load up all my dopamine and stuff. So after I eat dinner, this entire time, I remember I would go into the library, sit on the couch, like away from where I was working, and I would watch like a couple of episodes of anime. So like I remember I was watching Bleach 1000 Year Blood War, and I was just finishing up like the 3rd season. I was sitting down in the library and I was just watching that stuff. Honestly, I didn't mind. That was completely fine for me. It didn't matter that I was having this artificial dopamine at this time because I've already done all of my work beforehand. Sometimes instead of watching anime, maybe I will basically just go on the couch and read a book for a little bit. The point here, the key thing I want you to understand here is that when you do all of the work beforehand and do the fun stuff at the end of the day, then it becomes a lot easier to trick your brain into doing hard things. Plus, a little bit of a bonus, when you do this dopamine loading, right? Like when you wake up, it becomes a lot easier to get into that habit of doing hard work in the morning because you know that at night you can have all of these fun stuff at night. So you can literally your days will look so much more fun and cheerful and more enjoyable. Like you don't even have to worry about work anymore. By the way, if you want like extra advice, extra tips, more personalized help from me and other students, you might want to check out A-Star Students. The link is in the description below. I basically cover highly advanced study tips just like this one. But as always, may God guide us on the right path, and I'll see you in the next video.